Hello, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Nana, and today I'm going to talk about romantasy books that I have read recently, or romantasy books I have read for the last 2 years, I think. So yeah, I have 10 books or series on my list, and romantasy used to be one of my absolute favorite things to read. But I have been let down lately, and yeah, maybe it's just not really my thing anymore. Or at least I have been let down by YA romantasy. But adult romantasy is another story. There are some books there that I really have enjoyed, so I'm really happy about that. So yeah, I made a little list, and I think I'm just gonna start from worst to best. And then we'll see where this will take us. I don't know if all of these books are categorized as romantasy. I think some of them are like contemporary romance. But there are some fantasy elements to it, and I just included them anyways. So it's not going to be like a classic list of romantasy books. There's going to be some variations here, but I mean, that's nice. But the first book is A Song of Wrath and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. And this one is a YA romantasy series. And the premises of this book sounded so great. And there were definitely some elements to it that I really did like. Because it's inspired by West African folklore. Am I saying that right? Folklore? And I haven't read anything like that, and that part was really enjoyable, the elements that she took from that. This story is about Malik and Karina. And Karina is the crown princess, and she is the heir to this kind of like closed up city, Siran. There's this Solstalcia contest. Right before this contest, her mother gets assassinated. Then Karina comes up with this idea that whoever wins this contest is gonna be a king, because she needs a king's heart to resurrect her mother. I believe she had like a ancient book with magic spells in it. I cannot exactly remember. And that's where Malik comes into this picture. He is a refugee, and somehow he ends up in this contest because his sister gets kidnapped by this evil spirit, and this evil spirit wants Malik to attend this contest so that he can kill Karina. So they're kind of like each other's enemies. And yeah, all of that, it does really sound great. Like I said, some parts really did work well, but I did not get why these two fell in love. This is a duology, and I did not continue with book 2. I think I read some of it, but they just saw each other because they ran into each other before this contest, and it was like, yeah, okay. And then they were like, oh my god, I love this person so much. There wasn't any real build-up, or no, I did not see the love story here, and that's why it's so low on the list. And I think that is the problem with a lot of these books, is that I'm just not getting it. I'm not getting that cheerful feeling where you're just really hoping that two people will just, get together, and yeah, you're really rooting for them. And I didn't get the feeling from this book. So it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me as a romantasy series. It did not do its job. If I have gone into this book with more of just a fantasy book, I don't know if it would have been different for me, because you can always tell that a book wants to make you feel a certain way, and when that is just not working, all of the other things are just falling apart too, I think. That's why it's so low on my list. I know a lot of people are loving this series. I just didn't, but give it a try. The next series that is on my list is called The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare, and this is a prequel to the Mortal Instruments. And I just read this series last month, and yeah, I was disappointed. It's a trilogy, YA again, young adult. And yeah, this one is about Tessa, who is a warlock. She doesn't know that at first, but she comes from America. Then she immigrates to the United Kingdom. I think this takes place in, was it like the early 1900 or the late 1800? I'm not exactly sure. I cannot remember. Anyways, yeah, she goes to live in London with her brother. But before she gets there, she gets kidnapped by the two Dark sisters. And then she gets rescued by the Shadowhunters. And Shadowhunters are people that are hunting evil creatures that wants to harm humans. That's kind of like their job. And then she goes to live at this institution with them. At this institution, Will and Jim are living. And yeah, this is definitely like a love triangle thing. And again, I did not get it. I didn't. You could just tell that the books wanted to do so much, and it wanted me to feel so much. Yeah, it didn't work for me. Not at all. And the way that Tessa just like, I love these two boys so much. Like, why? Why do you love them so much? Like, pick one. And also, why? How? Like, you just look them in the eye and then that was it? Like, I don't get it. And another thing that bothers me was that they were like 16, 17, 18 years old and they were acting like they were 40 or something. Like, come on, let's be realistic. So yeah, did not enjoy this. And I have heard so many great things about this series. But yeah, no, that was not for me, and I'm not gonna continue the Mortal Instrument series. But if you're into YA, love triangle, and a book that's putting all of the tropes into one book or 3 books, maybe this could work for you. I'm not judging. It was just not for me. So yeah, that's how it is. The next series is also a duology, and that's the Divine Rival series, and Ruthless Vows is book 2, and it's by Rebecca Ross. I had really, really high hopes for this series. Like, I just wanted it to do so much, and it let me down a little bit. The first half of the first book was absolutely amazing, and I loved it, and then the second half lost me a little bit, and Ruthless Vows was like a 3-star. Yeah, I think that would be a 3-star. So yeah, didn't work for me quite as I thought it would have. This book is about Iris and Roman. They are both journalists at this paper, Oath Gazette, I believe. This story takes place in this magical world where the gods are kind of like slumbering because of a magical spell, but they are starting to wake up and a war is starting between 2 of the gods. Then Iris and Roman are starting to become war correspondents. It's a enemies to lovers book, and they connect between their typewriters and they're writing letters to each other. They just don't know who they're writing to. It was really sweet, but it was also way too much with the language in this book. Like,
Iris, your eyes reminds me of the sun, of a very warm summer day where the butterflies are flying.
I'm done. Like, that's not my style. I mean, I like romance. I just do not like that type of very prestigious romance. I don't know, like, ugh. I do not like that. I don't like poetry as well. I like a good story. I like some action. I don't know. That part of it I do not like at all, and that just became way too much. So yeah, that's why it was only a 3-star for me. And it was also just a duology, and I don't know, maybe a more vague world building is not my style. I can read a fantasy where the magic is kind of like vague and it's not the main thing of this book, but because this big war and stuff like that in this book, I just think that the world building needed a bit more, and The book was thin. The storyline was thin. Yeah, I think I had a problem with that too. The next series is the Folk of the Air series, the Cruel Prince series. I don't know exactly what to call it. And it's by Holly Black. And this one is about Jude, who is a human but gets kidnapped by this fairy, and the fairy kills her parents, and he kidnaps her and her sisters to go live with him in the fairyland because her half older sister is that fairy's daughter. So yeah, but she's a human living in the fairyland. This book is a little bit different because Jude is really a more feisty, violent girl, and she loves or hates the prince in the fairyland, Carden. I do like the world building in this one. It's a lot stronger than the Divine Rivals, but it wasn't as great as I thought it would have been. So this book is still like a 3.5 stars to me, I think. I cannot exactly remember what I rated it, but there was something about the writing in this book that was a little bit off. I think the sentences were really short. It worked a lot better as an audiobook for me as to actually read it. I think that was like the main issue I had with this book. Did I get the love story in here? So Carden is obviously a fairy, and he's doing horrible things to Jude, and a lot of the other fairies are doing the same, but then you learn why Carden is doing horrible things to it. Like, I think he's trying to protect her, as I remember. A lot of the fairies are just horrible people. They do like a good bloodshed. And I think that's what makes this book different. It's not afraid of painting people in a bad light. And yeah, I like that about this book. So yeah, just a lot of awful people in this book. I know that a lot of people are loving this series, and my expectations were really high, but yeah, it wasn't amazing for me, but well, I have heard great things about it, so maybe you will like it. I read the first 3 books, and then there's a 4th book out. I can't remember if that is a prequel or if it's... Yeah, I think it's following her sister or Carden. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm not gonna continue. I read the trilogy, and yeah, that was fine for me. So the next series is also a YA series, and it's an Ember in the Ashes series. And again, I heard great things about this book, and it has great ratings as well on Goodreads. I think all of these books actually have really great ratings. 4 point something at least. This book is about Leia and Elias. And Leia comes from the very poor part of this town, and Elias is a soldier. And then Leia's brother gets accused of treason. Yeah, he's sentenced to death, and first he's going to be at this prison. And then Leia seeks help from the rebels. And if she wants their help, she has to spy for them. So she has to go live in this castle, and she's disguised as a slave. And there she meets Elias, who is this soldier, and he's high up in the hierarchy because of his inheritance. And Elias does not agree with the way this kingdom is ruled. He really wants to escape, and they meet and they fight together, and it's a long story. There are 4 books in this series, so the world building in this one is a lot better. There were a lot of things that I did like about this book, but it's also really military heavy, and there were lots of fighting scenes and plotting and stuff like that. Reading this series back to back was maybe a little too much of military plotting, I don't know. And then the love story in here, it was a lot better than some of the others, but at some point it was also maybe too much of, please love me, no I can't, please, no.
Something like that.
And that became a little bit too boring in the end. And again, the book wanted me to feel a certain way, and it just became boring, so the love story was better than the others, but it wasn't that great. So 3.8 maybe, that's gonna be my rating, because there were many great scenes and there were many great twists and turns in this book as well. Characters acted way older than their age, so just make them older. It would be so much better. Yeah. The next series is the Tearling series. And I did not know if I could include this in this Romantacy vlog because, well, I think there is some Romantacy in this, but it's definitely not a classic Romantacy series. So if you're looking for that, I don't think this book will do that for you. But this is about Kelsey Glynn, who is the heir to the throne of the Tearling Empire. She has been sent away to live in the countryside in this cabin with a couple. That is for her own protection, so that she doesn't get assassinated before she gets to sit on the throne. So the only way she gets back to the castle is when her mother is dead and she becomes 18 years of age. And yeah, so she gets brought back to the castle. There's this neighboring empire that's been led by the Red Queen, and the Red Queen is trying to overtake the Tearling Empire, and the story really builds up about this war and how to fight the Red Queen. And it's also military heavy, and the romance in here is yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, it's not what you think. It's also about this girl learning what is important when it comes to love. And then, I don't know if it is in book 2. I think it is in book 2. You're starting to following another storyline, and that takes place like in our day, in our world, and that's really confusing, and you're like, wait, what? But that is also what is making this series great, because it is so different, and I don't want to spoil too much other than what I just said. Yeah, it's just really, really different. What I didn't like about this book is that there's also a lot of descriptions about really violent men and pedophiles and what they do to children, and it's about fighting them, obviously, but I don't enjoy reading about that. And this book was really violent, and yeah, I'm not sure if I'm into that so much. I mean, it's really important to take these bad guys down, right, and not turn a blind eye to it. But yeah, I still do not enjoy reading about it. So the ratings for this series was a little bit difficult, but maybe almost a 4-star as well. I did like that the series was so different from what I have read before. I think some people are not gonna enjoy the ending, and I do not know what I am feeling about it as well. Again, very, very different. So it does get some points for that. I don't know if this is like YA or adult or something in between. I think it's like something in between. And maybe that's why I like it a little bit more than some of the YA series. Yeah. Okay, so for this next series, it does say that it is a contemporary romance series, but I included it anyway because there's some magical elements to it. And it's called Surviving Time series by Calia Read. And this one is about, I really cannot remember the main character's name. Let's call her Susie. And Susie is owning this antique store. One day, her co-worker is coming in with these pictures from the early 1900s, and she's looking at these pictures and she's like feeling really connected with them. Then she brings them home to her fiancé Will, and then that night she's time traveling back to 1912 to this estate that Etienne owns. And there she finds out that she is Etienne's fiancé, or at least she looks exactly like Etienne's fiancé, and that fiancé is just gone. So now she takes on the role as his fiancé, and this book is a lot more spicy than the other ones. I don't think the other ones are spicy actually, but now we are moving on to more adult books, and this is spicy. Too much. But I really love the love story in here, and the time traveling, and yeah, I really enjoyed this series. I just had to know what was happening. If you're looking for a good love story with some spice, this could definitely be it. And there are some magical elements to it because of the time traveling and stuff like that. And it's also just really funny to listen to the narrator of this book, because when she's time traveling back to 1912, she's time traveling back to, it's definitely in the south of the US. So one of these states in the south. And just the accent and the way that the narrator is telling this book was really great, in my opinion. Yeah, she did a great job, definitely. I was so entertained. Like I said, this was a good love story. So go check this series out. It hasn't gotten that many ratings on Goodreads, but it has like 4 point something. So a lot of other people are liking this, but it's not that famous. So please go check it out. Then the next book on this series is a standalone. And it's the only standalone that I have read where the theme is Romantacy. But it's called Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. And the vibes from this book is just really something. And I have heard a lot of people saying that about Naomi Novik's books. Like, they're really special. And I don't know how I felt about it when I was finished, but now when I'm looking back, it's like, I can remember what I was doing when I was listening to this audiobook, and yeah, it was just really special. And this book is about Miriam, who comes from this moneylender family, and her father is not really great at his job, so they are really poor. And then I think her mother gets sick, and then she takes on the role to become a moneylender instead of her father, and she's really good at it. And then she catches the eye of the Starrick King. By the way, the world building or the magic in this book is really vague, so if you're not into that, maybe this would not be a book for you. But the Starrick King is this really weird creature, fey creature, something. And at first sight, he seems really evil. He wants Marion to be his queen because she can turn silver into gold. And that's why he wants her. Then it's also about other people. And yeah, it's hard to explain the plot of this book without also spoiling too much. I am contemplating whether I should try another Naomi Novik's book because it was really special. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I just think after you're done with this book, you just have to give it a little while to like really work on you. Yeah, it was good. It was good. So definitely a 4-star for me. And I sometimes do like a standalone instead of a really long series. Sometimes you're just not in the mood for that. So this was really great for that. I think the audiobook though was a little bit confusing because it does change perspective, but it is the same narrator. And she really does do a great job with changing the accent. But it did take me a while to be like, oh, now we are following this girl. That was just a small complaint. But narrating the book, the narrator did do a really great job. It was just, yeah, that part was just confusing. Go check this out. It's something. So the next 2 series, I'm just gonna smack together because it's by the same author and it somehow takes place in the same world. And I am in the middle of the Throne of Glass series, and I have read the Acotar series, but the Acotar series isn't finished yet. I don't know when she's coming out with the 6th book in that series. Anyways, the Acotar series is my absolute favorite series that there is, romantacy-wise. So so great. And Throne of Glass, like I said, I'm in the middle of right now. There's 11 books in that series, and I am making a reading vlog. So I'm not gonna go so much into detail about it, but I am enjoying myself so much. Is it just as great as the Acotar series? There isn't that much spice to Throne of Glass. Actually, it hasn't been any spice yet. I'm in the middle of book 4 right now. I don't know if it's coming or not. There's a lot of spice in the Acotar series, and that's not why I love it. But the romance in the Acotar series, it's just the best of the best. And when you get to book 2, it's something. Throne of Glass, is also really great as well. And there's a lot of romance there, and you can definitely see that this story is building up for something. I just don't know where it's gonna take me, and that's why I really love Sarah J. Maas's writing, because you think you're going in this direction and then you are not. The Acotar series took me by surprise. The twists and turns in that series was just so great. And it's about Favre, who is a human. She accidentally kills a fae, and then as a punishment she has to go live in the fae world in the spring court to go live with the spring king. And she's like, why is that my punishment? The faes have a rumor to be really quarrelsome. She's discovering that some of them are and some of them are not. So many things are happening, and then the second half of book 1 is taking a completely different turn, and I think that's where a lot of people gets hooked to this series. I absolutely loved the first half of book 1 as well. It was kind of like giving the feeling of just bouncing through a happy fairyland, and I don't know. I loved it. I am in love with this series, and I cannot wait to start the 6th book when it's coming out. So I'm waiting really impatiently for that. Throne of Glass, which is about Selena, and she is a assassin, and she's really good at it. She works for this rebel group, and then she gets caught and she gets thrown into the mines where slaves are working, but then she gets rescued by the crown prince and his captain, because they want her to be a fighter for the king. They're kind of like doing for their own benefits, because they're not really that into the king's way of doing things. Then she has to go fight in this contestant to win the rights to be a fighter for the king, and she does. And I mean, a lot of things are happening in this book, and it's a long series. The world building is absolutely amazing, just as in Acotar. I haven't really figured out if they are connected or if it's just like in the same worlds. I don't know yet, but yeah, I'll have to see. And there's also the Crescent City that also takes place in this fairy world, and I definitely do have to read that as well at some point. I'm just really in love with these series. They're so great, and I cannot get enough. And it's adult series, and I think it just works a whole lot better for me, romance-wise. If you're not into spice, then I wouldn't read the Acotar series. I don't know about the Throne of Glass yet, if it's coming or if it's not in that series. I just don't know. But yeah, that was the Throne of Glass series and the Acotar series, and that's the end of this list. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you found some inspiration. And if you think that you know a series that I would really like, please let me know in the comments. So yeah, that was it, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.